Every INFJ carries an inner voice that feels different from ordinary thoughts. It is not random guessing or wishful thinking. It is a quiet guidance system that speaks in a calm, steady way. It shows up during conversations, choices, relationships, and moments of uncertainty. Many INFJs describe it as a soft pull inside their mind or a sudden sense of knowing. This voice is not loud or dramatic, but it is firm. When it speaks, they feel it with full clarity. It feels like truth. This internal voice is part of the INFJ's intuitive nature. It collects patterns, emotional signals, past experiences, and subtle details from the environment. It processes them in the background long before the INFJ becomes aware of it. When the message finally reaches the surface, it feels like a deep certainty. What makes this voice so powerful is that it does not rely only on logic. It comes from the INFJ's ability to read people, understand hidden motives, sense emotional shifts, and pick up details that others ignore. For many INFJs, this voice shows up early in life. They may not understand what it is at first, but they feel it guiding them. It might warn them about people who seem friendly on the outside, but hold dishonest intentions. It might push them towards certain choices that later prove to be the right ones. As they grow older, they realize that this voice rarely, if ever, leads them in the wrong direction. It protects them, guides them, and helps them understand the truth beneath the surface of life. This internal voice becomes strongest when the INFJ faces important decisions or emotional situations. They may receive a sudden sense of clarity about a person they just met. They may recognize a problem long before anyone else notices it. They may feel a shift in a relationship before any obvious signs appear. Others may ask how the INFJ knew something so early, but the INFJ often cannot explain it. They simply know. Because this voice is so reliable, many INFJs learn to trust it more than outside advice. They listen to what others think, but their final decision usually comes from the internal feeling that guides them. This voice is not emotional impulse. It is not fear. It is not imagination. It is a deeper form of awareness that points them toward what is genuine, safe, and meaningful. In this video, we explore the 6 main ways the INFJ is guided by this internal voice. These ways reveal how intuition works in their daily life, how it protects them, and how it leads them toward the relationships and paths that fit their true nature. Understanding these patterns helps explain why INFJs seem to know things before they happen, and why their intuition feels like a truth that rarely fails. Way number 1. It warns them when something feels wrong. The first way the INFJ's internal voice guides them is through warning signals. When something is off, the INFJ feels it immediately. The feeling is not dramatic. It is a quiet shift inside, like a soft pressure, or a sense that something does not fit. They may not have proof, but the feeling is strong enough that they cannot ignore it. This warning often appears in social situations. An INFJ may meet someone who seems polite and friendly, yet their inner voice signals discomfort. They may not know why, but they sense hidden motives, insincerity, or emotional tension. The INFJ notices the small cues others miss: a forced smile, a guarded tone, a strange change in energy. They feel something underneath the surface that does not match the words being spoken. This internal voice also warns them during decisions. If the INFJ is considering a job, a relationship, or an opportunity that does not feel right, the warning becomes louder. They may feel uneasy, restless, or unfocused. Their mind keeps returning to the same concern. Even if everything looks fine on the outside, the INFJ senses that something important is being ignored. The warning is not fear-based. It is not anxious guessing. It is a response to subtle patterns that the INFJ notices automatically. Their mind picks up emotional details, hidden intentions, or shifts in atmosphere without needing logical analysis. Their internal voice collects all those signals and sends a clear message. Step back, wait, or look deeper. INFJs often avoid trouble because they listen to this early warning. They walk away from harmful people before others realize there is a problem. They avoid commitments that would have drained them. They protect their time, energy, and emotional safety by trusting this inner guidance. When they ignore the warning, they usually learn later that their intuition was right, and this inner signal also helps them detect dishonesty. They can sense when someone is lying or hiding something important. The INFJ may not confront the person, but their internal voice immediately creates distance. They stop trusting the words being said and begin observing the person more carefully. Over time, the truth surfaces, confirming what the internal voice already knew. The warning also protects their emotional well-being. When an INFJ spends time around someone who drains them, manipulates them, or brings negativity, the inner voice becomes heavy and uncomfortable. The INFJ feels pushed to step away, set boundaries, or limit contact. This helps them avoid relationships that would weaken them or pull them out of balance. In many situations, the INFJ cannot explain why they feel something is wrong. They simply know. This guidance system acts long before logic can catch up. It gives them a chance to reassess, observe, and protect themselves from situations that do not match their values or emotional needs. This instinctive warning is one of the strongest ways the internal voice guides the INFJ. It keeps them safe, aware, and grounded. It has saved them many times, and it continues to shape their choices each time something feels out of place. Way number 2. It shows them the truth about people early. The INFJ's internal voice has a unique ability to reveal the real nature of people long before others notice it. This does not come from judgment or guesswork. It comes from the INFJ's ability to sense intentions, emotional patterns, and unspoken behavior. Their intuition focuses on what people truly feel, rather than what they show on the surface. When an INFJ meets someone, their inner voice begins working quietly. It observes body language, tone of voice, energy, and emotional tension. It notices when someone is pretending to be confident, pretending to be kind, or pretending to care. It also notices sincerity, honesty, and empathy instantly. Without effort, the INFJ forms a clear sense of who the person really is, even when the person is trying to hide it. Because of this, INFJs often know early on whether someone is trustworthy. They can sense when someone is loyal, thoughtful, or authentic. At the same time, they recognize selfishness, manipulation, and emotional instability before anyone else sees the signs. Their inner voice points out patterns in conversations or interactions that reveal someone's true nature. This ability helps them avoid people who will cause harm. Even if the person acts charming or friendly, the INFJ senses the mismatch between their words and their real intentions. They feel it in their body and mind. Their internal voice whispers that something does not add up. They may not have proof yet, but the insight is accurate. Later, when events unfold, others may be surprised by the person's behavior, but the INFJ is not. This inner voice also helps them understand relationships. It tells them when someone is serious, when someone is pretending, when someone is hurting, or when someone is emotionally distant. The INFJ picks up emotional truths that others overlook. They see sadness behind confidence, insecurity behind arrogance, and fear behind anger. Their internal voice processes all of this and delivers a clear understanding of the person. Because they see the truth early, INFJs often form strong bonds with people who are genuine and emotionally open. They feel a natural connection with people who show honesty and vulnerability. Their inner voice encourages them to trust these individuals and invest in those relationships. This leads to meaningful friendships, supportive connections, and deep emotional ties. At the same time, this ability protects the INFJ from false connections. They do not stay close to people who drain them, disrespect them, or use them. Their internal voice highlights the warning signs early, so they can create distance before getting hurt. This skill also helps INFJs guide others. They often understand someone's potential and struggles more clearly than the person themselves. They see what someone can grow into. They see what holds someone back. Their inner voice gives them insight that helps them offer thoughtful support and encourage healthy change. In every situation, the INFJ's ability to see the truth about people early comes from this inner voice. It helps them understand, protect, and connect in ways that feel almost instinctive. It is one of the strongest and most accurate forms of guidance they have. Way number 3, it guides their decisions. When logic isn't enough, the INFJ internal voice becomes strongest when they face decisions that logic alone cannot solve. While many people rely on lists of pros and cons, INFJs use something deeper. They collect the facts, think them through, and then wait for the quiet feeling inside that tells them what direction feels right. It is a steady pull toward one choice over another. This pull is often more accurate than external advice. This guidance appears in many areas of life. When choosing a job, the INFJ does not only look at salary, security, or titles. Their internal voice focuses on meaning, balance, and emotional fit. They sense whether the environment will support their well-being or drain them over time. They feel whether the work aligns with the values they care about. Even if the job looks perfect on paper, the voice will signal when something feels wrong. And later, the INFJ usually discovers why that feeling was correct. They experience the same thing in relationships. Their internal voice tells them whether someone will respect their boundaries, value their mind, and appreciate their depth. It also tells them when a relationship is reaching its limit. Long before things fall apart, the INFJ feels the shift. They sense when emotional balance disappears or when trust begins to fade. That inner message becomes clear even before the signs become visible. When facing major life changes, the INFJ relies even more on this guidance. They may suddenly feel a need to move to a new city, leave a stagnant environment, or start a new direction in life. To others, these decisions may seem surprising or risky, but to the INFJ, they come from a strong inner certainty. Their internal voice is telling them that something better is waiting on the other side of the change. This guidance also shows up in everyday choices. They might avoid a plan that looked fun because something feels off. They might take a different route home without knowing why. They might reach out to someone randomly because their intuition tells them that person needs support. Later, they find out the feeling was accurate. Their intuition leads them to the right place at the right time. What makes this internal guidance powerful is that it connects emotional truth with long-term insight. Logic can miss the subtle emotional or relational consequences of a decision. The INFJ inner voice does not. It senses patterns, possibilities, and outcomes in ways that are hard to explain but deeply reliable. Because of this, INFJs often trust their internal voice, even when others do not understand their decisions. They may hear doubts, criticism, or confusion from those around them, but they know the feeling inside is rarely wrong. The more they follow it, the stronger it becomes. With time, this guidance system becomes one of the most trusted parts of their life. Way number 4. It helps them avoid fake connections. Another powerful way the INFJ internal voice guides them is by helping them avoid relationships that are not genuine. Their intuition is sensitive to emotional authenticity. When someone is pretending to care, pretending to listen, or pretending to be something they are not, the INFJ senses it immediately. Their inner voice becomes uneasy, quiet, or tense. Something inside tells them to step back. This ability protects them from people who only want attention, validation, or control. The INFJ notices when a smile is forced or when praise feels empty. They notice when someone's actions do not match their words. Even if others are convinced the person is sincere, the INFJ feels the hidden motives behind the friendliness. Their internal voice whispers that something is not real. This guidance is especially strong when the INFJ meets someone who drains their energy. They feel it instantly. The person may seem polite or charming, but something inside the INFJ tightens. They feel tired around them, or they feel a shift in their mood that does not belong to them. This reaction is part of their internal protection system. It tells them that the connection will take more than it gives. The internal voice also helps INFJs avoid people who use emotional pressure. If someone tries to guilt them, rush closeness, or manipulate their empathy, the INFJ senses the imbalance. The inner voice tells them that the connection will not support their growth or emotional health. They pull back quietly, sometimes before the other person notices anything is wrong. On the positive side, this same guidance helps the INFJ recognize genuine people. When someone is honest and emotionally open, the INFJ feels calm. Their internal voice relaxes. They feel warmth and safety. There is no tension. There is no confusion. They sense real kindness and sincerity. These signals help them invest in the right relationships. INFJs depend heavily on this voice because they value deep connections. They do not want to waste emotional energy on friendships or relationships that lack honesty or trust. Their inner guidance keeps them away from situations that would weaken them or make them feel unseen. It steers them toward people who respect them, understand them, and allow real emotional exchange. Because of this, the INFJ often avoids many unnecessary heartbreaks. Their internal voice filters out the wrong people early. Even when they cannot explain why they feel uncomfortable around someone, they trust the feeling. And usually, with time, the truth reveals itself and confirms the intuition they had from the start. This ability to avoid fake connections is one of the reasons INFJs build meaningful relationships rather than many shallow ones. Their internal voice acts as a silent guide that helps them protect the depth of their emotional world. Way number 5. It leads them toward purpose and meaning. The INFJ internal voice does more than protect. It guides them toward the life they are meant to build. INFJs are not motivated only by material success or external approval. They want meaning, growth, impact, and emotional fulfillment. Their internal voice acts like a compass that points them toward the places, people, and paths that align with who they truly are. This voice becomes strongest when the INFJ feels lost or disconnected. Instead of pushing them toward random solutions, it gently encourages them to explore what matters. They may feel drawn to certain interests, creative projects, or fields of study without knowing why. These pulls are not accidents. They are signs from the internal voice pointing toward a deeper purpose. Many INFJs discover their passion through intuition. They may suddenly feel an urge to write, help others, teach, create, or study something meaningful. Even if they do not understand the reason at first, following that feeling usually leads them to growth or clarity. Their internal voice knows what parts of life will help them evolve. This guidance also shows up in relationships. The INFJ feels a strong sense of recognition when they meet someone who plays an important role in their development. It may be a mentor, a friend, or a partner. Something inside says, this connection matters. The INFJ may feel inspired, safe, or awakened by that person. Their internal voice helps them recognize relationships that support their purpose. Purpose is not always grand or dramatic. Sometimes it is a quiet inner calling to live more honestly, to set boundaries, to heal past wounds, or to care for others in a meaningful way. The INFJ internal voice highlights these needs clearly. It tells them when they are living out of alignment with their values. It encourages them to return to what feels real and meaningful. When the INFJ is stuck in a job or environment that drains them, their inner voice becomes restless. It pushes them to change. It reminds them that life is not meant to be lived in emotional exhaustion. It encourages them to seek roles that allow creativity, empathy, or insight. The INFJ may resist at first, fearing the unknown. But the internal voice does not fade. It keeps guiding them gently until they take the step. This guidance is what allows INFJs to build a life that reflects their inner world. They are not satisfied with living only on the surface. They want depth, purpose, and emotional truth. Their internal voice leads them there, one step at a time, showing them what paths hold meaning and what paths lead to emptiness. This is one of the most powerful ways the INFJ is guided. Their internal voice does not just protect them from harm, it directs them toward the life they are meant to live. Way number 6. It protects their emotional energy. The INFJ internal voice also protects them from emotional exhaustion. Because INFJs feel deeply and care strongly, their emotional energy can drain quickly if they give too much or stay in the wrong environment. Their inner voice acts as a warning system that tells them when they are reaching their limit. This signal often appears long before they become overwhelmed. One of the first signs is a shift in how the INFJ feels around certain people. Their internal voice becomes heavy or uncomfortable when someone drains their energy. This might happen with people who complain constantly, create chaos, or expect emotional labor without offering support in return. The INFJ may not consciously analyze the situation, but they feel a quiet urge to step back. That feeling is their inner voice telling them that their emotional balance is at risk. This guidance also appears when the INFJ is trying too hard. They often take on responsibilities, emotional burdens, or expectations that go far beyond what they can handle alone. Their internal voice warns them when they are pushing themselves too much. It may show up as restlessness, mental fatigue, or a quiet whisper urging them to rest. The INFJ might ignore this at first, thinking they should keep going, but the inner voice grows stronger until they realize they need a break. This voice also helps them set boundaries. INFJs can struggle to say no because they do not want to disappoint or hurt anyone. But when they say yes too often, their inner world becomes overstretched. Their internal voice notices this imbalance and signals that a boundary is needed. It tells them to protect their space, to say no when necessary, and to remove themselves from situations that feel emotionally unsafe. This guidance allows them to keep their relationships healthy and their energy steady. The internal voice also helps INFJs understand when they need solitude. They are naturally introspective and require quiet time to recharge. When they go too long without it, their inner voice nudges them toward isolation or stillness. This is not withdrawal in a negative sense. It is a form of emotional repair. The INFJ becomes calmer, clearer, and more centered when they listen. Their inner world resets. This energy protection extends to their goals and dreams. The INFJ inner voice can sense when a path no longer supports their emotional well-being. If a job becomes too draining, if a relationship becomes imbalanced, or if a commitment stops feeling meaningful, the inner signal grows stronger. It encourages them to step back, reassess, and choose what supports their long-term emotional health. The voice also guides them toward environments where they feel understood and safe. It pulls them toward people who respect their boundaries and offer mutual support. It helps them avoid situations where they would be used, overlooked, or overwhelmed. This protective guidance makes their emotional life more stable and allows them to grow without losing themselves. In many ways, this internal voice acts like a guardian. It notices when the INFJ is giving too much, trusting too quickly, or staying somewhere they no longer belong. It quietly reminds them to protect their heart, energy, and mental well-being. When they follow it, they feel lighter, clearer, and more grounded. The INFJ internal voice is one of the strongest and most reliable parts of their personality. It guides them toward truth, protects them from harm, and points them toward meaningful paths. It helps them see people clearly, make wise decisions, and protect their emotional balance. For INFJs, this voice is more than intuition. It is a steady inner guide that rarely leads them in the wrong direction. If you are an INFJ, trust the inner voice that speaks quietly but clearly. It understands who you are and what you need. And if you know an INFJ, understand that their intuition is not guesswork. It is a deep form of awareness that guides their life in ways that feel natural, honest, and true.